The late visitor. The first knock came just after 3, light, deliberate, like someone was testing whether I would answer. I froze in bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. The familiar hum of the city outside suddenly distant, almost irrelevant. Who would be at my door at this hour? The thought made my pulse spike. I live alone. I always live alone. Nothing like this had ever happened before. I am a creature of habit. My days bleed into nights with predictable monotony. Emails, deadlines, lukewarm coffee, the occasional walk home past empty streets. I tell myself it's safe, that I've built a cocoon of normalcy. My apartment is my fortress, walls lined with books I've never reread, a sofa perfectly worn to my shape, the kettle always ready for tea. But even fortresses have cracks. The hallway outside my door is dim, the lights flickering as if breathing. Shadows curl into corners, dancing on the peeling paint. The knocks come again, this time louder, more urgent, but still deliberate, almost conversational. And then for the first time I hear it, a whisper, soft and wet, threading my name through the silence. Not my name as I know it, but a warped, curling version of it, like the sound had been stretched across something cold and metallic. I tell myself it's a prank, maybe a neighbor too bored or drunk or both. But my stomach tightens and I notice the air shifting, a chill crawling up the back of my neck. The faint stench of something decayed, almost sweet in its wrongness, rides the draft beneath the door. My mind races, searching for rational explanations, fumbling for logic. There is none. The apartment, once a haven, suddenly feels like a stage set for something I am not meant to understand. And still, the knocking continues, patient, knowing, waiting. I realize with a slow, sickening certainty, tonight I am not alone. And whatever is at that door doesn't belong to the world I thought I lived in. The knocks don't stop, they just change. What began as a curious tap at my door evolves into something rhythmic. 3 knocks, pause, then 2 more. Always the same, always at 3 a.m. It's no longer random, it's a pattern. The first night I ignored it. The second night I sat upright in bed, phone in hand, thumb hovering over call. By the third night I was standing in the dark, barefoot on the cold floorboards, waiting for it. That's the worst part, how quickly fear becomes routine. When the knocks came that third night, I forced myself to look. My breath fogged the peephole. Nothing. Just the dim hallway stretching into quiet emptiness. But I could feel someone or something on the other side. The air was thick, charged like the moment before lightning strikes. Then came the whisper. My name. Not shouted, not spoken. Whispered, close enough to feel its echo in my chest. Daniel, drawn out, trembling with familiarity. Whoever or whatever was out there knew me. I slammed the latch shut, backed away, and turned every light on in the apartment. The walls groaned like something shifting inside them. My reflection in the window looked pale, eyes wide, hair clinging to sweat. The night stretched on, a living thing breathing down my neck. The next day, I tried to laugh it off. Told my friend over coffee. He chuckled, said, "You've been watching too many horror movies, man." Maybe he was right. But when I got home that evening, my doormat, usually centered, was slightly askew, as if nudged by something heavy, and on the corner of it was a single damp footprint. By the 5th night, sleep wasn't an option. I sat on the couch, mug of tea shaking in my hands, eyes fixed on the door. The smell came first, rotting sweetness, thick as syrup. Then the temperature dropped. Frost clung to the inside of the window panes. My breath became visible in the air. The pounding began. Not a knock this time, a violent, frantic assault, rattling the hinges, shaking the frame. My lights flickered, books fell from the shelves, and through the chaos I heard it again. My name, closer, desperate, pleading, then silence, and from the other side of the door, the faint scrape of metal, like a key sliding into a lock that shouldn't exist. That night, I decide I've had enough. Fear has been chewing holes through my sanity, and I want it to stop, even if it kills me. The knocks come again. 3, pause, 2. My pulse hammers against my ribs. I grab the flashlight, the heaviest object I can find. My hand trembles, but I grip the handle like a lifeline. The air tastes metallic, like old blood. I unlock the door. Silence. The hallway is empty, washed in sickly yellow light. Every sound feels too loud. My heartbeat, the faint hum of the ceiling bulb. I take a step forward, then another. The door closes behind me with a soft click, sealing me out of my own safety. That's when I feel it. A faint breath on my neck, cold, measured, close enough that it stirs the tiny hairs on my skin. I whirl around, nothing, just the stale air and the flicker of the lights. I raise the flashlight, its beam cutting through the dark corridor, landing on the end of the hall where the stairwell window sits. There, just for an instant, I see it, my reflection, or at least something shaped like me, pale, motionless, watching. Then it smiles and disappears. My breath catches. I step closer, flashlight shaking in my grip. Who's there? My voice breaks the silence, sharp and small. The echo answers, not delayed, not distorted, but perfectly synchronized, repeating my words in my own voice. Then it speaks again without me. Why did you let me in, Daniel? My blood runs cold. The smell hits next. Sweet rot, like something long dead pulled from water. The lights flicker and die. Darkness swallows everything. I swing the flashlight wildly, the beam slicing through black. Shadows move, too many, too fast. Something brushes past my leg. Another breath at my ear, the whisper again, this time from everywhere. Daniel, come home. I stumble backward, hitting the wall. The door behind me is gone, just smooth plaster where it should be. I scream, pounding against it, voice cracking. Then the flashlight flickers one last time, and in that dying cone of light, I see myself standing at the far end of the hallway. Same face, same clothes, but eyes, wrong, black, empty. It smiles again and steps toward me. I slam the door shut and twist every lock until the metal screams. My hands are shaking so violently, I can barely grip the handle. The flashlight flickers once, then dies in my palm, leaving me in the stale glow of the apartment's overhead bulb. My breath comes in ragged bursts. The silence afterward feels heavier than the noise that preceded it. But I'm not alone. I can feel that much. Something followed me in. The air is wrong again. Too still, too cold. My own shadow seems to lag a second behind my movements. When I pass the mirror in the hallway, I don't look. I can't. I cover the peephole with tape. Leave every light on. Sit with my back to the wall, phone in hand, thumb hovering over a number I'll never dial. What would I even say? Something wearing my face tried to come home? They'd send someone with a clipboard, not a gun. I try to sleep, but every sound becomes a threat. Pipes groan, the radiator exhales. The faint creak of a floorboard drifts from the hallway. I tell myself it's the building settling. It always is, except now I don't quite believe it. Days blur. I stop going to work. My friends call, text, even knock once or twice. I don't answer. They'll never understand. When I finally reply, I tell them I've been sick. They send emojis, tell me to rest. None of them notice how the shadows behind me in my video calls sometimes move on their own. I've started hearing the knocks again. Softer now, but constant. Every night at 3. Not from the door anymore, but from inside. Sometimes the wardrobe, sometimes the wall behind my bed. It's like the sound has learned to travel. Once, I found my front door open a few inches in the morning. The locks untouched, no signs of a break-in. Just that same faint stench of decay wafting through the hall. I tell myself I imagined it, that trauma plays tricks on perception. But sometimes I see movement in the corner of my eye. A figure pacing, watching, waiting. Whatever came that night didn't leave. It just learned to stay quiet, to live here, with me. The knocks never stopped. I learned to live around them, like a clock I couldn't read, ticking at 3 a.m. sharp every night. I stopped trying to answer. I stopped trying to understand. Fear became routine, and routine became a sort of grim companionship. Sometimes in the dead of night, I wonder, do I even want to know what waits beyond the door? I sit on my bed, knees pulled close, the dim glow of the city spilling through the blinds. The apartment is silent, almost peaceful. Then it comes, a soft knock, deliberate, measured. My chest tightens, familiar dread washing over me. And the whisper follows, curling through the darkness like smoke. I see you. I don't move. I don't speak, I just listen. Because I know, as I always have, that it isn't going away. It doesn't have to. It has learned to live here, with me, between the shadows and the walls. The apartment smells faintly of rot, even now. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye, or a reflection that doesn't belong to me. I've stopped asking questions. I've stopped hoping for answers. The city outside goes about its life, unaware of the nightly visitor that waits in the hallways of this small, dim-lit apartment. Patient, patient, patient. I've changed, or maybe I've just surrendered. My world has contracted to this single haunted space. I'm alert, cautious, haunted, but alive. Barely. and maybe that's enough. So if you're listening, take this as a warning or a promise. Some stories don't end, they linger. They reach into your quiet nights, into your locked doors, into your mind. And if you hear a knock tonight, or a whisper calling your name, maybe it's not just a story anymore. Thank you for watching and listening. If this story sent chills down your spine, hit like to support the channel and help more people experience it. Don't forget to subscribe for daily content and share this with someone who could handle or survive this kind of tale. There's another video waiting on your screen, ready to pull you in. I'll see you back here tomorrow, if you dare. And remember, some visitors never leave. Mirror in the hallway. Have you ever looked in a mirror and felt it was looking back at you differently? I moved into the apartment on a rainy Thursday, dragging boxes through streets slick with water, the smell of wet asphalt hanging in the air. Fresh start, I told myself. New beginnings. But the place, it wasn't exactly welcoming. The floors creaked underfoot, groaning like they were unhappy with my presence. The walls were lined with faded wallpaper, curling at the edges, the patterns warped as if they'd absorbed decades of whispers. The hallway was narrow, almost suffocating, with a single dim bulb flickering like it couldn't decide whether it wanted to stay alive. And then there was the mirror, towering, antique, framed in twisted bronze vines. It caught every sliver of light, every shadow, reflecting them back with an almost sentient clarity. From the first night, I felt its gaze. Not a reflection, a presence. At first, I convinced myself I was imagining it. A trick of the eye, stress of moving. But the more I walked past, the more I noticed small discrepancies. Shadows that lingered a second too long, corners of the glass catching a shape that didn't belong. Sometimes I'd pass, and it would feel like the mirror's surface exhaled, as though it breathed when I wasn't looking. I tried to ignore it, focusing on unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, making the apartment mine. Yet every night, a cold draft would slither down the hallway, brushing against my ankles, carrying with it a faint metallic scent I couldn't place. It wasn't just a mirror, it was a watcher. And I had a creeping suspicion that, whatever it was, it had begun to notice me too. It started subtly. One evening as I passed the mirror, I waved, and it didn't wave back the same way. My reflection lingered, lagging a fraction too long, and then it smiled. I wasn't smiling. My chest tightened, I froze, my heart pounding. The reflection, it moved again. I told myself it was exhaustion, too much work, too much change. But the anomalies kept coming. Shadows bent in ways the room didn't allow. Objects in the mirror's world shifted slightly, as if trying to reach beyond the glass. Once I saw it brush a vase with a hand that wasn't mine. My pulse spiked. My phone felt useless in my hand. I called a friend. "You're overthinking it," they laughed. Their voice didn't reach the knot of dread settling in my stomach. Sleep became impossible. The apartment felt smaller. Every groan of the floorboard sounded like footsteps behind me. Every flicker of the overhead bulb, a warning. I tried to convince myself I could ignore it. Covered the mirror with a sheet. Pushed furniture in front of it. But at night, a faint whisper would brush my ears, unintelligible but insistent. It made me startled, heart hammering against ribs I could feel. I began pacing, avoiding that hallway altogether, yet the mirror seemed to follow. In the reflection, I caught glimpses of myself I didn't recognize. Eyes wider, shoulders tense, a posture I didn't own. And then came the touch. My reflection pressed a hand against the glass, fingers trembling. I could see my own fingers, frozen, unable to respond, while it pressed harder. I stumbled back, hitting the wall. The echo of my heartbeat filled the room. Days bled together. I barely ate. I barely slept. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Shadows pooled in corners where light should have been. Every night I swore I saw the mirror breathing, exhaling condensation that formed shapes on its surface, shapes that weren't mine, shapes that were waiting. I realized I wasn't just living in the apartment anymore. I was under surveillance. The watcher was learning, anticipating, creeping closer with every reflection. And the more I resisted, the more it seemed to hunger for my fear. It happened faster than thought. One night, the bulb flickered and died, plunging the hallway into near darkness. I froze mid-step because the reflection wasn't in the mirror anymore. It had stepped out. Whole, perfectly real, smiling, malicious, fingers brushing the walls as if testing the air, the space, my resolve. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but my legs betrayed me. I could only watch as it advanced, slow, deliberate, confident. My heartbeat roared in my ears, like drowning out the faint whispers that had haunted me for weeks. Shadows of my own fear pooled around my feet. Every instinct screamed, get out, survive, escape. But the hallway seemed smaller now, tighter, closing in. It reached for me. I could feel the cold brush of its fingertips in the air before they even touched my arm. Panic clawed at me, wild and raw. I grabbed the nearest object, a chair, and swung blindly. The reflection flinched, startled but not defeated. Its grin widened, stretching beyond sanity. I shoved the chair, tripped, fell, and the world spun with terror. Then I saw it, the mirror, my only choice. I scrambled upright, hands trembling, and grabbed a hammer I'd left on a shelf. Swing after swing, I brought it down on the glass. Shards exploded, scattering across the floor. The mirror's surface fractured, jagged lines crawling like lightning across its face. And then, silence. The reflection vanished. No shadows, no whispers, no sinister grin. Only the remnants of glass scattered like frozen screams. My chest heaved. Relief crashed into me, but terror lingered, a bitter aftertaste. Had I truly defeated it, or merely delayed the inevitable? I stared at the shards, fingers shaking, trying to comprehend what had just walked out of the mirror and back into nothing. Every nerve in my body screamed, pulse hammering, lungs gasping. I could still feel its gaze on me, echoing in the corners of the hallway. I had confronted it. I had acted. And yet, somewhere deep, I knew the mirror's eyes had not entirely left me. Something in me had changed. Something had seen what it wanted, and it had marked me. I sank to the floor, hands raw and bleeding from the shards, and tried to tell myself it was over. The reflection was gone. The hallway was empty. My pulse slowed, just a little, but the apartment felt different, heavier, quieter, yet louder in the way silence can press against your skull. As I gathered the larger pieces of glass, I noticed something impossible. Tiny fragments, no bigger than flecks of dust, began moving, sliding across the floor, twisting, gathering, slowly, meticulously, forming the familiar outline of the mirror's frame. My stomach clenched. Every rational thought fled. I forced myself to look, and there it was. My reflection, grinning, wide, too wide, eyes glinting with knowledge I didn't have. It wasn't me, not anymore. Every instinct screamed for me to run, but my body felt trapped, glued to the spot by the sheer wrongness of what I was seeing. I backed away, stumbling into the doorframe, heart hammering like a war drum. Each night afterward, I avoided that hallway. I swept shards into hidden boxes, shoved them into closets, but it didn't matter. The whispers returned, persistent, patient, calling my name in tones I couldn't ignore. I tried to convince myself it was my mind, frayed from sleepless nights and fear. But deep down, I knew better. The fragments continued to creep back, almost at their own pace. I could feel it watching, calculating, waiting for the right moment. The apartment was mine in name only. Every reflective surface felt like a doorway, every flicker of light a signal. I moved with care now, a constant vigilance I hadn't asked for, trapped in the awareness that the watcher was patient, relentless, and capable of returning exactly when it wanted. Sleep became a luxury. Shadows held shapes that weren't there before. I spoke to friends less, fearing disbelief. In the quiet moments when the world felt still, I could swear I saw the glimmer of tiny shards at the edge of my vision, nudging closer to one day making themselves whole again. The mirror was gone, yet the feeling remained. A patient, silent presence waiting just beyond perception, biding its time. And I knew, somehow impossibly, that the story wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Weeks passed. I moved cautiously through the apartment, every creak of the floor, every flicker of light setting my nerves on edge. The mirror was gone, or at least most of it, but the grin lingered in my mind. That malicious, knowing smile. It was patient, persistent, waiting for a moment I couldn't anticipate. I tried to convince myself I had won, that smashing the mirror had ended it. But deep down, a cold certainty gnawed at me. Some things can't be destroyed. Some things choose you. And maybe somehow the reflection had chosen me. A fragment of it lived in the shards, in the shadows, in the corners of my vision where reality blurred. I moved differently now, faster, cautious, hyper-aware of every reflective surface, every glimmer of light. Sleep was scarce, and when it came, it was restless, haunted by the grin that waited for me in dreams. I had changed. I could never walk freely through that apartment, through that hallway again. Fear had rooted itself in my bones, and with it, a strange, awful vigilance. Yet, despite the dread, I survived. I learned. I adapted. And I realized that sometimes surviving isn't about defeating the darkness, but learning to live with it. To acknowledge that the world holds things you cannot rationalize or fight, and that some shadows are patient enough to wait for you to notice them. And now, as I glance at any reflective surface, I can't help but feel it. Watching, waiting, grinning. I may be alone in the apartment, but am I truly alone? Or has the reflection claimed a part of me forever? If you've ever felt watched, or have a story that can make your skin crawl, share it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories you won't forget. Thank you for listening and watching. There's another video recommended on your screen that will chill you to the bone, and I'll see you back tomorrow, if you dare. The whisper from below. You ever hear a sound in your own home that makes you question if you're really alone? That's what happened to me last night. I live in one of those old apartments you rent when you're broke, but pretending you're not. The kind of place with more character than comfort. Slanted floors, a radiator that sighs like it's dying, and wood that talks back when you walk on it. I'd been there 3 years, long enough to know every groan, every moan, every tired breath the building took. I like the quiet, always have. I work from home, writing technical manuals, the kind of job that makes your brain feel like wet cardboard by 6 p.m. So, when the world goes dark and everyone else goes to bed, that's when I wake up. I'll sit at my desk with a single lamp on, soft yellow light pooling over my notes, and the rest of the room falling into comfortable shadow. The only sounds are the occasional car outside and the ticking of the old wall clock my grandmother left me. That's why, when I first heard the scratching, I noticed immediately. It wasn't loud, not yet, more like a faint rustle, deep under the floorboards. Too deliberate to be the wind, too rhythmic to be pipes. At first I figured, rats, old building, wooden floors, easy guess. I made a mental note to call the landlord in the morning. But as I sat there, the sound came again. Scratch, scratch, pause. Scratch, 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 and then silence. I turned down the volume of my music, listened, nothing. Still a strange unease settled in, like the air had thickened, like something below the boards had paused too, listening to me. I laughed it off, told myself I was just tired. But that night, even as I went to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that my apartment wasn't as empty as I thought. The scratching didn't stop. It grew sharper, faster, like fingernails tapping in a rhythm meant to taunt me. Each tap sent a shiver down my spine, and yet I couldn't look away. My apartment, which had always felt like mine, now seemed alien. The familiar shadows twisted in corners. The air felt heavier. Something was waiting. I tried to convince myself it was just rats. Ordinary, mundane, harmless rats. But when the scratching paused and I swore I heard breathing, slow, deliberate, beneath the floor, every rational thought evaporated. My curiosity warred with terror. I paced, grabbed my phone, considered calling someone. Even the idea of neighbors or friends didn't comfort me. They'd laugh if I told them. They'd say I was imagining it. And then I heard it, a whisper, so faint I thought I'd imagined it. But it was there. I know you. My pulse shot up. My palms were slick with sweat. I could feel the floorboards vibrating beneath me. A simple sense of dread wrapped around me, but something stronger, a compulsion, drove me forward. I had to see. I had to know. With trembling hands, I grabbed a crowbar. The floorboard protested, creaking as I pried it up. Darkness gaped at me like a mouth. My flashlight barely penetrated it. The cavity was deeper than I could imagine. And then I saw them, tiny skeletal hands reaching out from the void. Thin, pale, twitching with unnatural intent. I froze. My legs refused to move. Every instinct screamed to run, to shove the board back down and never look back. But fascination, that maddening curiosity, anchored me in place. I leaned closer, squinting into the darkness. The whisper came again, louder this time, carrying a weight that made my chest tighten. I see you. I stumbled back, heart hammering, but my eyes remained glued to the shadows beneath. Questions pounded in my head. What is this? How is it alive? Why me? Every answer seemed worse than the last. And just when I thought I might lose control, the scratching started again. But now it moved around me, under the boards, following my every step. I realized then, with a chill that sank into my bones, that I wasn't just observing whatever this was. I was inside its world, and it knew it had me. The whisper came again, louder, sharper, impossible to ignore, and this time it said my name, my actual name. I froze. Blood turned cold in my veins. The hands beneath the floorboard twitched and crawled, stretching closer, desperate. Every rational thought I had, the logic, the reason, the explanations, collapsed like a house of cards. My apartment, once my sanctuary, had become a cage. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of light seemed alive, watching, waiting. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears, drowning out the scratching, the whispers, everything but the fear that gripped me. I had a choice: face whatever abomination was lurking beneath me, or run and leave it behind, unseen but undestroyed. My mind screamed at me to flee, to get out while I still could. But a small, irrational voice inside whispered, "You need to see it. You need to know." Panic won. I slammed the floorboard down with all my strength, the wood shuddering against the subfloor. The impact reverberated through the room like a gunshot. The hands flinched, clawing at the edge one last time before disappearing into the darkness below. The whispering stopped. Silence descended. But it was not peace. It was anticipation, as though whatever had been waiting was only biding its time. I stumbled back, heart hammering, chest heaving. My apartment felt smaller, walls pressing in on me, the dim lamplight flickering as if caught in a nervous tremor. The air was thick, almost wet, heavy with a presence I could not see, but could feel pressing down from the floor, the walls, the shadows themselves. I wanted to breathe, to tell myself it was over, but every instinct, every sense screamed that the danger hadn't vanished. It had only retreated. The claws of fear had sunk too deep to let go, and I knew, deep in my bones, that I had glimpsed something that would never stop wanting me, would never leave me alone. And there, in the oppressive silence that followed, I understood. Some things are not meant to be confronted. Some things wait. And some things, once they know you, never forget. The silence that followed was almost unbearable. Thick, suffocating, yet fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the flashlight, its beam wobbling across the familiar room that now felt alien. And then, there it was. One last whisper, faint but unmistakable, curling through the floorboards like smoke. "Don't leave." I jerked upright, heart hammering, pulse so loud it felt like it was hammering against my skull. My apartment, my safe little world, had become a cage I didn't trust. I could almost imagine tiny skeletal hands scratching beneath the floor, testing the boards, marking their territory. The thought made my skin crawl, yet I couldn't tear my eyes away from the floor. My mind replayed every sound, every whisper, every shadow stretching across the walls. I tried to rationalize, telling myself it had to be something explainable. Rats, the building settling, maybe even a dream I had half sleeping. But even as I whispered the words to myself, I knew the truth. Something had been there. Something that had seen me, spoken my name, and touched the edges of my fear in a way no ordinary thing could. I locked the floorboard back into place, hammering it down like a barricade, imagining it was a door sealing away the impossible. And yet, I found myself checking it obsessively, night after night. Every creak of wood, every soft groan, every shadow flickering across my lamplit walls became a potential signal, a warning that it was still there waiting. Sleep became a battleground. I lay in bed, eyes wide, staring at the floor, listening. Every night I imagined the tiny hands, reaching, stretching, testing for weakness. My apartment no longer offered comfort, only vigilance. I could almost hear its patience, slow, steady, infinite. And yet life moved forward. Work called. The outside world went on. Friends laughed. The town slept, but I carried the memory, the whisper, the sense of something below, patient and unrelenting. Every shadow, every floorboard, every faint creak reminded me, some things aren't gone just because you slam a board down. Some things wait, and some things know your name. I'd survived the night, but the night I realized had survived me too. Even now, years later, I avoid the bare floorboards when I walk across my apartment. My steps are careful, calculated, as if the weight of the boards themselves could summon what I once saw, what I once heard. At night, when the world goes silent and my apartment breathes in its familiar rhythm, I swear I can hear it again. Just a whisper, faint enough that I question my own mind. My curiosity has left scars deeper than fear ever could. I tell myself I'm stronger now, that I've learned my lesson. But some lessons aren't about strength, they're about patience, about the awareness that some things are better left undisturbed. Yet the memory lingers, a shadow of unease under every quiet floorboard, a pulse beneath the familiar, a reminder that curiosity doesn't always let go. Sometimes I wonder, did it retreat, or has it been waiting all along, biding its time? And if it is waiting, would I even recognize the moment it decides to reach for me again? Questions like that keep me awake, staring at the ceiling, listening for the faintest scratch, the softest whisper calling my name. It's a fear that never fully leaves, a presence that never fully disappears. So if you ever hear a sound in your own home, a scratch beneath the floorboards, or even the faintest whisper of your name, what would you do? Would you pry it open, driven by curiosity? Or would you step back, slam the board down, and pray that what waits below remains patient? If you stayed with me until the end, thank you. Make sure to like the video, it helps support the channel and ensures you don't miss any of these stories. Don't forget to subscribe for daily content and share this video with someone who enjoys a good scare. There's another video on your screen right now that you won't want to miss, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. And remember, some things under the floorboards aren't gone. They're just waiting, whispering, watching, always.